Right guys, so hopefully you will have copied out all of your notes in your books on over 2 pages like we normally do, with your table, with your structure and your context and everything else. Tried to make that really clear on the PowerPoint. And now we're going to go through the poem. I love this poem. This is a great poem. This is a really powerful poem, really super famous. Everyone knows this one. Okay, this is a poem by Wilfred Owen. This is Dulce Decorum Est, and it's got some of the most amazing, vivid imagery that I've seen in any poem. So I'm hoping you're going to love this one. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to read through it. You can see and hear, actually, I don't know, I'll try and put one into the PowerPoint as well, a reading of the poem, which is, again, really powerful and vivid. Okay, so first of all, let's start with the first line. Bent double like old beggars under sacks. Okay, vivid imagery of these men. They're obviously suffering. How do you know they're suffering? Because they're bent double. They're bent over like old beggars under sacks. Okay, this is a simile here, which kind of tells like old beggars under sacks. Old beggars. These are young men. These are teenagers, people in their 20s, but they've been compared to old beggars. This simile suggests they have lost their youth. Now, this could mean physically and mentally. Okay, then you have more vivid imagery here with knock-kneed, coughing like hags. Again, hags. What are hags? Do we know? That hags are old women. So it's almost taken away their masculinity. You know, their idea of being young, fit, healthy men. Again, this is a simile. He does use lots of language devices in this. You've also got this. Sorry, I'm really rubbish at this, as you know. Knock, kneed, coughing. This alliteration of the harsh C sound. And that, like it normally does, just creates this kind of violent sound. And then, which relates to the violence, we curse, so they're swearing, which shows suffering. They're swearing through sludge. Now, sludge is, they're not saying, you know, they're walking along. We curse through sludge. Sludge is thick, hard to walk through. So you have this image already. They're bent over, they're coughing, they're cursing through sludge, which just shows you that everything that they're doing is hard work. Till on the haunting flares, we turned our backs and towards our distant rest began to trudge. Okay, so all of this again just shows suffering. So on the haunting flares, the idea of something being haunting means it stays with you. If something haunts you, the idea that it stays with you. And the flares, it's not like just a flare. The flares are obviously some of the weaponry that they're using, some of the weapons the other side are using, the Germans are using. We turned our backs. Okay, so they're walking away now and they're going towards our distant rest. Now, the word distant is quite interesting here because it could mean, again, literally or metaphorically. It could mean it's literally a long way for them to go. But it could mean metaphorically as in it's just because they're so tired and they're so exhausted. And then this word, we began to trudge. Trudge, again, gives imagery of it being difficult. It makes it seem like a slow process, hard work. And then we have this this metaphor, men march to sleep. That just shows you how exhausted they are. They are so tired that it's just an automatic reaction to put one foot in front of the other, but they're not even thinking about what they're doing because they're so tired. And then we have this, many had lost their boots, but limped on bloodshod. Okay, so lots of them had lost their shoes, but they limped bloodshod. Now, this is an interesting word. We've talked about the word shod before when we talked about the prelude, and it just means shoed. So they are bloodshod. Their feet are covered in blood. This could be their blood. It could be someone else's blood. Again, creates quite graphic imagery. All of this is very graphic imagery. All went lame, all blind. Now, this repetition of all, repetition, is hyperbolic. It's hyperbole. Because not every single person went blind. Not every single person went lame. To be lame means that you can't walk properly. And it kind of relates to bloodshod. There's a couple of things in here actually that kind of make them sound a little bit like an animal, a little bit like a horse maybe, because horses are shoed and horses go lame and they sort of trudge along. You could make that comparison. Okay, so we've got the repetition and the hyperbole. That just shows how everyone is affected by the war. We talked about the AB in the PowerPoint, AB rhyme scheme, and that goes throughout, and that is to show the endless suffering of the war. Now, so we've got the first stanza. Okay, first stanza is all about the suffering, how hard it is, what hard work it is for them to do. And then we have the second stanza, which is a total change of pace. It picks up, look at that first sentence, gas, gas, quick boys. Look at these short, exclamatory sentences. Now, you should all know that is just a posh word for an exclamation mark sentence. Gas, gas, quick boys. Now, what does this create? Listen to the way I'm reading it. Gas, gas, quick boys. It creates a sense of urgency. Okay, but also, tragically, this word, boys, what does that make us think of? How young they are. Young and innocent, I'm going to put there. Okay, and now we have this really strange word chucked into this poem about war. This word, ecstasy of fumbling. Now, this is kind of ironic. We associate ecstasy with being really happy, but it also kind of refers to a bit like being in a trance, which does make sense in this case. So a trance-like state of fumbling. Now, to fumble around is to do something really clumsily, trying to do it quickly, but you're not doing it properly. So imagine doing up a button and you're fumbling with it. It means you're not doing it up. You're just kind of clumsily doing it. So an ecstasy of fumbling, fitting the clumsy helmets just in time. Because there's a gas attack, they need to put their helmets on, their gas masks on. But, and then we have this word here, but someone still was yelling out and stumbling. Now this tells us that this one person has not been able to put on his helmet in time. And then we have this, again, horrible graphic imagery of and floundering like a man in fire or lime. So floundering means to struggle. So he's struggling like a man in fire or lime. So this simile, again, it's really graphic and horrible. Like a man in fire. So like a man who's around fire or lime. And lime, both of those substances burn. So he's struggling like a man in fire. So you can, use your mind's eye to just visualize that for a moment. Think about what somebody would look like doing that. And that's what he's seeing in front of him because of the gas. And then we have, where are we? Simile, I'm going to put both burn there just so that you remember. So I know I talk fast. Then we have dim through the misty panes and green light as under a green sea I saw him drowning. Now, the misty panes refer to his own gas mask. It's important you actually understand all the bits that are going on here. So, dim means he can't see it very well. Dim through the misty panes, and the reason they're misty is because it's through his gas marks, and the thick green light. Now, the green light is actually the colour of the gas. As under a green sea, I saw him drowning. Okay, so this simile here, it's obviously not a green sea. Simile shows how vast, look at that word sea. A sea is big, it's vast, isn't it? It shows that it's all around them, shows how vast the gas is. And this word here, this metaphor, I saw him drowning. He's not actually drowning, is he? But the gas is going into his lungs and it looks as if he's drowning. Now, interestingly, we go on to, it's almost like these two are 2, 4, 6, 8, 2, 4, 6, 8, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. It's almost like these two are joined, but there's a short break here. Now, the rhyme also links. If you look here, it goes A, B, A, B. Now, it links here, but it's detached. And the reason why it's detached, sorry, my hand's getting shaky because I'm holding my phone for ages. The reason why it's detached is because he's now going back to this and he's saying, in all my dreams, before my helpless sight, he plunges at me, guttering, choking, drowning. Now, again, in all my dreams, this shows, well, two things in all my dreams. First, is it hyperbole or not? We don't know. But what he's showing is that he cannot escape the image. He can't escape the idea of this man dying in front of him. Before my helpless sight. Okay, this is showing how he feels. You know, in front of him, this man is dying and there's nothing that he can do because there's no gas mask. He plunges at me. Okay, this is quite a vivid verb here. And this shows desperation. So this man is desperate, and it's the fact he plunges at me. He goes towards him, the person who's been watching him, Wilfred Owen. And then we have these triple verbs, guttering, choking, drowning. Okay, so this triple verbs or triadic structure we've spoken about, they emphasize the actions, how desperate the actions are. And also the fact that it's still using the ing, makes it seem present tense, which makes it feel like it's immediate, like it's happening now for him in his dreams. So he has this daily struggle of life being hard work, of him being exhausted. They're all suffering, lame, blind, all of these terrible things. But then even when he goes to sleep, he cannot escape these sights and these sounds and these feelings. Now, this last stanza, as I said in the PowerPoint, it changes slightly. It's now appealing to the audience. Now, the audience is the reader, and the reader then was who? It was the people back home. And the reason why this is important is because when people went to go and join the war, there was lots of war propaganda. We've looked at this before. You know, it's great to go and join up for your country. You know, everyone needs you. Your country needs you. Women, send your men off to war. There was all of this stuff that actually, you know, the war will be over by Christmas. Great Britain is so great, we could defeat anyone. But actually what was happening is hundreds of thousands of people were dying. And Wilfred Owen saw this himself. He was on the front line and he wanted to write the truth about the war. And it was actually him that coined the phrase. He was the first person to coin the phrase, and I write at the top here, the pity of war, which has become a common phrase that people use now. You'll notice actually that the thing I set you was actually called The Pity of War. Lots of books are written about it as well. And actually we know that now, don't we? That war is terrible and tragic, and that people suffer. Lots and lots of people suffer. Okay, so now he's appealing to the audience and he's saying, if in some smothering dreams, again, this interesting word, interesting adjective, because to smother someone means to suffocate them. So he has this idea that these are suffocating him. He feels that he cannot breathe. He hates it. If in some smothering dreams, you too could pace behind the wagon that we flung him in. Okay, so if you could walk, if in your dreams you could walk behind that wagon that we chucked, that we flung him in, makes it seem careless. You know, this is a young man who's suffered from a gas attack and they've thrown him in. They've flung him in. But why? It's showing that war leads to lack of humanity and dignity. Have they got time to care for each single person that this happens to? Of course they haven't. But then we have this hideous imagery here. And watch the white eyes writhing in his face, his hanging face. I mean, this is hideous imagery. Shows physical suffering. Oops, sorry, shows physical suffering. And has lots of, you know, it just has connotations of pain. His hanging face, like a devil's sick of sin. This is a strange simile. It's almost like a devil sick of sin. I mean, the devil is like the epitome, is the highest point of evil. But it's even like the devil's had enough of this. If you could hear at every jolt, right, the jolt is from the wagon going along and hitting the uneven earth, the blood come gargling from the froth-corrupted lungs, obscene as cancer. Okay, this kind of intensifies. So cancer, obscene as cancer, this simile here intensifies the dying, the dying soldier's suffering. No, he's saying it's as awful as cancer, bitter as the cud, a vile, incurable sores on innocent tongues. Okay, the idea of innocent tongues is the youth, the young men, they're innocent. Youth is lost. You know, and incurable means there's nothing that they can do to save him. My friend. Now this is a change, isn't it? This change here. This is really the appeal. My friend, you would not tell with such high zest. You know, that means high zest means enthusiasm. You wouldn't tell with such enthusiasm to children. Now, children, again, he means the young, doesn't he? Because that's what he's calling these soldiers, I feel. To children who want some desperate glory, the old lie, dulce et decorum est pro patria mori. Now, this means, and I will put it in the PowerPoint, I don't know that I have actually. It is good and right, although sometimes people say sweet, to die for your country. Now, it's interesting because it's written in Latin. It could be Owen's way of saying people don't really understand. What they are getting into, what they will face in the war. I'm just trying to think what else there is to. I'll put a couple more things on there, but for me, as I said, I love this poem. Oh, I think I've gone upside down. Sorry, guys. I love this poem. I think it's a wonderful poem. It's really full of things to write about. So I'm going to ask you to copy down the stuff from the PowerPoint, copy down all of this, and then I will attach a structure strip where I want you to do a section A on it. Okay, remember section A, nice and simple. Just answer the questions on the structure strip and we should be fine. And then we'll look at another one. Thanks, guys.